All right, so let's keep going because the 2027 Hyundai Ioniq 6N deserves the deep dive. We already talked looks, power, and the end goodies, but there's so much more to unpack with this car once you live with it and really start pushing systems. Let's talk about the battery and powertrain in detail, because this is where Hyundai made huge changes over the Ioniq 5N. The 84 kilowatt-hour pack is new for 2027 and uses Hyundai's 4th-gen cells with improved energy density. That means more capacity in the same footprint, which helps keep the 6N center of gravity super low. The big upgrade is thermal. You have a dedicated radiator for front motor, one for the rear motor, and a third high-capacity radiator just for the battery. Then there's an N battery preconditioning mode that has 2 settings now. Drag sets the battery to the optimal temp for max launch power, and track sets it for sustained lapping, so you do not get thermal derating after 3 corners. I tested this at a local road course. Outside temp was 92 degrees. After 15 minutes of hard lapping in track mode, battery temp sat at 46 degrees Celsius, and power was still at 97%. In the Ioniq 5N, you would start losing top end after 10 minutes in that heat. The motors themselves are oil-cooled, and the rear motor has a 2-stage inverter that allows for higher continuous output. That is why the 6N can do 162 miles per hour and hold it without the car immediately backing off like most EVs. N-Grin Boost is something we need to explain more because it is not just a button. When you hit it, you get 10 seconds of max 641 horsepower and 568 pounds-foot, but the car is smart about it. If battery state of charge is under 30%, it will limit boost time to 6 seconds to protect the cells. If battery temp is too high, it will delay boost until temps drop. There is a cool down timer in the cluster, so you know when it is ready again, usually about 30 seconds of normal driving. You can also map N-Grin Boost to one of the N-Custom buttons on the wheel, or use the paddle on the back left of the wheel for a quick tap. During boost, the N-Active Sound Plus gets 10% louder, and the ambient lighting in the cabin pulses red. It sounds theatrical, but when you're emerging on a short-on ramp and you hit that button, the surge is addictive. N-eShift deserves another minute, because it is the most controversial feature and also the best part of the car. In manual mode, you have 8 simulated gears. First gear runs to 32 miles per hour, second to 55, third to 78, and so on. The car cuts torque for 0.15 seconds on upshifts and blips on downshifts. If you do not shift, it will hit the limiter and just sit there bouncing, complete with the ignition sound mode popping like a real Elantra N. The crazy part is that it is not just sound. Hyundai programmed in power delivery curves for each gear. In second gear at 4,000 simulated RPM, you get less torque than in third gear at the same speed, which mimics how a gas car feels. You can short shift to keep it smooth or wind it out. There is also N launch control that works with E-Shift. You hold the brake, hold the throttle. The car simulates building revs to 4,500 revolutions per minute. Then you release the brake, and it dumps power like a DCT launch. Without E-Shift on, launch control is just a single speed punch. With it on, you get a proper first or second shift mid-launch, and it is way more dramatic. For beginners, you can turn on N E-Shift Active, which will shift for you, but still do the torque cuts and sounds, so you get the drama without worrying about paddles. Now the chassis. The 6N uses a new integrated drive axle on the rear that saves 12 pounds of unsprung weight. The N adaptive dampers have 3 modes, but within N mode you have a 10-step individual slider for rebound and compression. Most people will never touch it, but if you track the car you can dial in how it handles curbs or bumpy back roads. The front suspension geometry was changed from the base Ioniq 6. More caster for better steering self-centering, and the steering rack is mounted solid to the subframe for less flex. The result is turning that feels sharper than a 4,800-pound car has any right to. The Michelin Pilot Sport EV tires are Hyundai-specific with a compound tune for heavy EVs. They are not as sticky as a Cup 2, but they last longer and work in the rain. If you want more grip, the 19-inch N-Track wheel option comes with Pirelli P0 Trophy RS tires and deletes some sound deadening to save 18 pounds. N-Drift Optimizer is not a gimmick either. You have 10 levels. Level 1 barely lets the rear step out, and the front motor cuts in early. Level 10 turns off front motor power completely, loosens stability control, and lets you link drifts as long as you have the skill. The car uses wheel speed sensors, yaw sensors, and GPS to know what the car is doing, and it will adjust rear motor torque 100 times per second to help hold angle. I am not a pro drifter, but on a skid pad I could set it to level 5 and do consistent circles with minimal countersteer. It teaches you car control without letting you loop it instantly. There is also an torque distribution that lets you go from full front-wheel drive to full rear-wheel drive in 10% increments. Set it to 100% rear and turn off E-shift, and it drives like a big electric muscle car. Set it to 50-50, and it launches harder with less drama. Inside, the end seats are worth more time. They are heated and ventilated, which you do not get in a lot of track-focused cars. The side bolsters are adjustable with air bladders, so you can loosen them for a road trip and pump them up for track day. The driving position is 15 millimeters lower than the base 6, and the dead pedal is properly placed for left foot braking. The screens run Hyundai's CCNC system with N-specific graphics. The N Performance app in the infotainment lets you record lap data, video, throttle and brake traces, and G-force. Then it overlays it on video you can export to a USB drive. There's even a ghost car function where you can race your previous best lap, and the cluster shows you if you are ahead or behind in real time. The head-up display in N mode shows a big shift light bar across the top when E-shift is on, plus battery temp and motor temp in the corners. Daily stuff. The 6N still has vehicle to load, so you can run power tools or charge another EV at 3.6 kilowatts from the charge port. It has 800-volt fast charging, and it supports Tesla superchargers with NACS from the factory for 2027. Plug and charge works. And in my test, I went from 12 to 83% in 17 minutes at a 350 kilowatt station. Efficiency is obviously worse than a base Ioniq 6. I saw 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour on a 70 miles per hour highway test in Eco with 19-inch aero wheels, which would be about 277 miles of range. With the 20s and driving normally, I got 3.0 flat, so 252 miles. In N mode driving hard, it was 1.6 to 1.9 miles per kilowatt hour. So figure 150 miles if you are really on it. For most people, you will charge once or twice a week if you commute. Let's talk competitors again with more detail. The Tesla Model 3 Performance is about $8,000 cheaper, and it is quicker to 60 by a tenth. But it does not have the theater. No simulated shifts, no drift mode, no track endurance. After 2 laps, the Tesla starts pulling power. The BMW i4 M50 is more refined inside and has a nicer badge, but it weighs more, it is slower, and it feels like a fast luxury car, not a car built by a motorsport division. The Dodge Charger Daytona Scat Pack EV is the closest in attitude. It has its own fake exhaust call for its Sonic, and it is big and brash. But it weighs 5,900 pounds, so the 6N feels like a sports car next to it. The 6N hits that middle ground where it is practical enough to use every day, but it has real motorsport development behind it. Hyundai N has been racing TCR and WRC, and they put that knowledge here. Warranty and ownership. You get Hyundai's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, and the battery is 10-year, 100,000-mile too. N cars get a free track day with NASA or similar organization, and Hyundai logs if you track the car, but it does not void warranty unless you have obvious abuse like crashing. Maintenance is minimal. Tires, brake fluid, and cabin filter. The big brakes are by wire and use Regan for most stopping, so pads should last 50,000 miles unless you track it weekly. Customization. Hyundai offers N Performance parts already. You can get a carbon rear wing, lighter forged 19ths, 2-way adjustable coilovers, and even a half cage if you want to go full track. The aftermarket is starting too. There are already tunes that unlock 680 horsepower, but you risk warranty. The car has a ton of data ports, so expect people to build combust gauges and apps for it. So final thoughts after extended time. The 2027 Ioniq 6N is not just the best driving electric sedan under $80,000. It is the first EV that made me not miss gas. And I never thought I would say that. The E-shift and sound and chassis tuning add up to something that feels emotional, not just fast. It is a car you make excuses to drive. You will take the back road home, even though it adds 10 minutes. You will hit and grin boost on an empty on-ramp just to feel it. You will argue with your friends that yes, the fake shifts are worth it. Then you will let them drive, and they will get it. If you are cross-shopping, go test drive one when they hit dealers in spring 2027. Put it in N mode, turn on ignition sound, enable E-shift, and find a corner. If you do not smile, you might not be into cars. For the rest of us, this is the blueprint for how to make EVs fun. Hyundai N did not just build a fast Ioniq 6. They built a future classic for people who love driving. If you want a full in-depth POV drive, track battle with a Model 3 performance, or a road trip test to see real-world range, comment below and tell me what video to make next. Subscribe if you are into cars that give you that feeling, because we have a lot more coming. Thanks for sticking around for the extended cut, and I will see you in the next one.